Let us wait for 10 minutes for others to join. I request you all to turn off your mic and camera while the meeting is going on. Please do not unmute if you have any questions. Just post it in the chat, okay? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, teachers and students. Welcome to this webinar. I request all the students to make sure that their mic is on mute during the session. Please don't leave the session until the session is completely over. For any doubts and clarifications, please put it in the chat box. I repeat, please make sure that your mics are mute during the whole session. Don't leave the session until it's fully complete. And for any doubts and clarifications, please type them out in the chat box. Thank you. We do not remember the days, but rather the moments. And with a huge love for detail, every wedding and event is planned to make these memories we cherish forever. So, welcome everyone to this webinar on event management and motivation to pursue our passion in life. To begin this webinar, I request Dr. S. Sasikala, HOD, to present the welcome address.
Good morning, all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
So, a very good morning to one and all present here. Good morning, Shreya. It's good to see you today.
Yes, same here.
I deem it my pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar by our beloved alumni member, Shreya Mohan. Um, and on behalf of Dr. G.R. Damodaran College of Science and School of Communication, I take it my pleasure to welcome you to this event, Shreya. Thank you for coming in to meet your juniors and then share your thoughts and views with them. Okay, thank you so much. Within a short notice, you have agreed to it. And I welcome all the students, the first years, second years, third years, and also the MJMC students who have joined here. And I also would like to welcome and thank all my team of faculty members who have joined here and for their organizing efforts too. Once again, I welcome you all to this session.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a pleasure to have amidst us today Ms.Shreya Mohan Nayar, an alumni of Dr. G.R. Damodaran College of Science. Ms.Shreya Mohan, who completed her schooling in the Indian High School, Dubai, joined Dr. G.R. Damodaran College of Science and completed her degree in visual communication. In an interest to follow her passion, she took a year gap and stepped into the field of public relation. While working in a company called Publicis India, she worked with many brands such as Harman, Soulful, Netflix, Ola, Hello App, and the like. She later worked in a wedding planning company named Crafted Knots before she began to pick her books up again at Christ University Bangalore for her MA in Media and Communication. They say energy is contagious, and Miss Shreya is here to spread her energy and stir ours up with her great enthusiasm. We now welcome Ms. Shreya to our webinar. It's a great pleasure to have you here, ma'am. The mic is now yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all my professors, my teachers for having me back. It's always a pleasure to go back to the college you studied in. As as a resource person to go back to your own college, it's a different feeling altogether. I remember my HOD ma'am and even Shashikala ma'am, Vidya ma'am, all of you all used to say, it's a different feeling when your ex-students come back and as a resource person. And I'm glad I could make you all proud and do this. So I dedicate this to all of you and thank you, because what I am today is because of what you all taught me back then. So to start off, I'll just start off my presentation. All right. So to start off with the presentation, and just a disclaimer, please excuse any form of mistakes I make. I'm not a pro at giving speeches. I'm just sharing my experience of what I did and what I am now. So I'll just kickstart the presentation. So I basically did visual communication at GRD. Then I took a year's break. I did corporate communication for about 3 4 months, and then the rest of the year I did wedding planning at a company called Crafted Knots. I did a couple of weddings there. I did a couple of corporate conferences as well. And on the side, to keep me happy, I do, other than the professional side, on the personal side, I do animal rescues, and that is my personal side, and that's my go-to thing for, getting rid of all the stress that you take on your professional side. So yeah. So to get to the main part, before I start talking about in the importance of internships, I'd like to say how, before I start talking about how the PR and event industry functions like, I want to tell you all how important your mental health and physical health is when you go into this industry, because you'll have a huge workload, you'll have sleepless days and nights. When you're an intern, at sometimes they give you inhuman work schedules at some points, very stressful deadlines that you may have. But one thing is that if you're very passionate about um, being an event manager, being a professional, nothing can stop you. And initially, with all the kind of health issues I had, I'm pretty sure all the professors online, they know about the different health issues I had. I used to keep taking medical leaves when I was at GRD. So when I took a year's break after GRD, my family, my friends, all of them said, "You're going into the wrong route. You're getting into the wrong industry. It's too stressful for a person like you. You'll not be able to handle it." But one thing I realized was when that 1 year's break that I took, it really, really helped me. It brought about the confidence in me that no matter what kind of health issues I might have, I will still be able to pursue what I want, because it's finally not about just the skills you have. It's not just about the aptitude that.
Shreya, Shreya, 1 second. You're not very clear, Shreya. The audio is not clear. Can you use your headphones or something?
Yes, ma'am.
Your audio is not clear.
Okay, yes, just a second,
Can you
please.
use your headphones?
Yeah, just a second, please.
Yeah.
Sorry about the inconvenience. Just a second. Is it better now?
Yes, it is better now.
Okay, all right. Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Uh, all right. So getting back to where I stopped, yeah. So yeah, so I was saying about how it can be really stressful at certain times, your work schedules, but always remember to give more emphasis to your own health, be it your mental or physical health. Do not tire yourself out beyond a certain point. Of course, go all in, do all you have to, but don't give up at the end of it. Um, all right. So to start off about importance of internships, I really took a year's break after GRDs to do internships. I wouldn't get a job no matter how much I tried in events and PR. They really wanted a lot more internship experience. So I finally went for an internship. Luckily, I did get stipends, and I did get very good companies. Publicis Group was a Copcom company, so that's where I started off. And to talk about importance, firstly, it really gives you a view into how important professionalism and ethics are when you get into a corporate world. because the kind of ethics and the kind of norms that they have in a corporate world is not something we really get a hold of while in college, because we're more into theory. We do get practical, but not as much as we need. So internships are very important in that case. um, Confidence development. When you go out in the corporate world, they're very blunt with you. They're not lenient as our professors are with us, or say, it's okay, we'll extend the deadline by a week for you. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't do your job, either they cut it out of your salary or your stipend, or you face a big brunt at that time. So when you are put to pressure, when you're challenged to that extent, it definitely builds your confidence. Especially for a person like me, I'd say if I can do it, anyone can do it. Thirdly, practical learning. Like I said, you learn on hand things that all your theoretical knowledge you apply, and you practically start learning as to how the corporate world treats you, be it PR or events. Especially events, it is a practical subject 90%, and 10% is probably theory, the technical aspects and all of that. Fourthly, you understand the corporate world. This is in tandem and in relation with the other previous points that I mentioned. You totally understand how they function, be it the good side and the bad side. There's a bad side to every institution that you get into, because there will be a lot of pressure and challenges and risks that you face. But there's also a good side of it, and that's something you slowly get accustomed to. Each institution works a different way. The first company that I interned in, that is Publicis Group, and the second company, that is Crafted Nuts, they worked extremely differently. Publicis was extremely formal, extremely strict, very disciplined. Crafted Nuts was a lot more lenient, a lot more informal, and all of that. Please excuse my dog sound in the background. Uh, then fifth would be, it's a foundation for your career. When you do internships, it gives you so much of understanding with regard to what you need to do next, and it really builds, your resume foundation. It builds a foundation within yourself as to what you want to pursue next as well. Moving on, um, you understand what your actual interests are. For me, when I started interning in Copcom, it was a 9 to 5 job. And some days my 5 o'clock evening time would go on till about 9, and I would be working 12 hours as an intern. And I had almost a 10-15 kilometer travel back from my office. And that too in Bangalore, the traffic is crazy. So, you know, uh, in times like that, I really questioned, like, is it a desk job that I really want to do from, 9 to 5, just sit at the desk and, work on sending emails and calls and talking to journalists, pitching. After a certain point, I slowly started losing interest in the whole concept of only sitting at a desk. So I wanted to be more hands-on in whatever I do. So I realized that, I want to do events, and that's how I sent out a mail and luckily got an internship in the next company. Next would be networking. When you start an internship, you always need to make sure, as much as possible, unless you have that much of a negative experience, which you won't, always make sure that you keep in touch, you maintain those relations with your colleagues or your mentors, because this really holds importance. For me, I have found a friend for a lifetime from Publicis Group. Her name's Andrea. She helps me even to date on a personal as well as professional level. She still works for Ola and Netflix and all of that. She's a part of the company. And, Publicis is, they handle a zillion clients like Harman and Sony and Ola, Uber. They handle a lot of stuff. So when you go back and you trace back, you talk to the HR and you say, I used to work there. You maintain a relationship. It will not only help you tomorrow and future. You can also go back to just ask for help. You're not necessarily you want a job back there, but you can always trace back and say, listen, this is where I'm stuck. Where do you think I should go for? Because they have more experience. they'll be able to help you. The next would be an impressive resume. It helps you build an impressive resume, because the more internships you have, the more confidence an employer will have in you, that you've learned this much, and they know you've learned something, if not everything. No one expects you to know A to Z, because every company is different. Everyone's expectations are different, so they don't expect you to know everything, but they do expect you to know certain basics. Which is why the next point: do not cheat. Do not ever fake having done an internship, because it is extremely important to learn what you do at an internship. Like, for example, certain terms are there, like EOD and impressions, pitch, news tracking. All of this, if you've not done an internship and you go back to college and they ask you, you should know, because these are the basic of basics that are there. And if you don't know it, they know for sure that you've not been sincere at your internship, or else you've not done one at all. So learning for your as a foundation to your career, as well as sincerity wise, moral value wise, please do not ever cheat about having done an internship. Lastly, personal development. These experiences, they help you on a personal level as well. For me, meeting new friends, meeting new colleagues, having learned so much from very experienced professionals, it helped me develop personally as well. Because you're part of group activities, and I'm a very reserved person. I was a very reserved person. I was very uncomfortable around new people. When I came to GRD as well, since I learned in Dubai, everyone thought, oh, this girl's from abroad, and she's got too much attitude. Please avoid her completely. So for the first couple of, I think, week or two, I was completely boycotted by my classmates. But later on, they realized I was the one who was scared and petrified and reserved, and it was not attitude, but it was just sheer fear of not being accepted. So when they understood that, they took me in. But tomorrow when you go to an organization, do not be me when I came to GRD in the first year, because it's extremely difficult when that happens. You have to interact as much as possible. Just start off as an entry level, because when you start off, you don't know anything. You come with a clean slate, and slowly you improvise, you learn from mistakes, and that's how you move on. um, so that is the importance of internships. Moving on, this is just a term that I'd like to introduce to you all. It's called cold email. It's basically an email that you send to a person that you have absolutely no idea about. Like, absolutely no idea about, no? You haven't met the person directly. Like for me, my best internship, that is the Crafted Knots wedding internship that I did, was because I randomly desperately, I was sending cold emails to people from different companies, because I didn't know where to go next. My first internship at Publicis was ending in a week or two, and I wasn't having an internship or a job anywhere else. And by chance, one of the cold emails I sent got a very good response, and they liked my resume. They got back to me, and they said, "Why don't we meet? Um, we'll have an informal meeting." And that's how I knew my boss's name was also Shreya. And we just caught up on that, and that was it. Then there was no looking back. So, be it internships or for job offers, or even just advice from a person you look up to, cold emails is something you really need to get used to. You need to send them out if you need to build on your profile. Next, what is PR is obviously something all of you all know. In one line, it's deliberately releasing information from within the company outside. Now, the importance of it is something you always obviously theoretically learn. But other than that, on the practical side of it, when you are part of the um corporate world, when you're part of the organization, these are a couple of things that really hit you, and you realize, okay, this I learned in theory, but I do realize that it is completely applicable right now. Um, Firstly, it increases visibility. Like, when you promote your client, like for me, I'll give you an example and explain. When I was a publicist, again going back, I was working on Harman, which is a big company, and I was, trying to increase their visibility. I was doing few promotions for them. So I was talking to Harman, getting information about what their latest promotions and latest deals are. And I was letting our journalists know. And deliberately, I was being a party wherein I was doing the work for Harman and conveying their message deliberately outside to possible customers, etc., through a journalist. So we would get in touch with the Hindu or Times of India, and we would tell them, okay, see, this is coming out about Harman. Would you do a pitch for them? So I would put forward the information that I have, and I would tell them. So then you have to get back, you have to follow up, and following up is the hardest task you have to do, especially as an intern. You're made to do all the follow-ups, and after each follow-up, at least out of 10 journalists, 8 of them will cut the call. 2 3 of them will give you a hard reply saying, can you stop calling me, can you stop pestering me? But that's something you just have to deal with, and over time you realize how to give a proper, kind reply. You cannot be rude as a PR professional or as an events professional. You have to be nice, but at the same time, get your work done. Secondly, it helps tell stories. PR will convey a whole story about your brand, about your company, and it basically gives your organization a whole voice, a tone that the consumer catches on to. You can take any brand, for example, Lace. They always go and they always promote a more humorous side. Even if you see their covers and all of that. So it really tells a story about the organization to the consumer. So PR is very important for that. Thirdly, it brings credibility. It brings in reliance. It brings in a sense of trust with the consumers. It brings in a sense of proof wherein you feel like, okay, they're actually moving forward, they're actually doing something about their products and services. The fourth one would be relations between your clients and company. PR is something that is internal as well as external, mainly external. Like I worked on the external front, but internal PR is also, you release newsletters about your employees within the company. You're talking about the organization and all of that. So it depends on which one you catch on to. Some people take more interest in internal. I was working on the external front, so that's something I can more, elaborate on. Fifth, it manages reputation. Um, there was a case, I think, of Pepsi quite a few years back, wherein the Diet Coke or Pepsi, I'm not very sure. Either one of them, the cans had a lot of, when the cans came out into the market, a lot of consumers started complaining. There were foreign objects inside it. Some people found a syringe, some people found coins and metal strings inside it. So immediately what the company did was they decided, okay, you know what, this was like crisis management, what they did, and it's a part of PR. Immediately they released a video on news channels of the whole process of production and packaging and releasing of their product to prove that they are not involved in any sort of this, and this is something that has been plotted against them, and this whole insertion of foreign objects is not something they did. So it manages your reputation. Depends on how fast and how quick you are to respond to such crisis. Even without a crisis, how well are you managing your reputation in the market along with other competition is also up to the PR. Sixth, it helps sales. You maintain your reputation, you convey credibility, automatically your sales also either takes a hit or it goes up. So it's a big job on the PR side, that reflects onto the sales and onto the, the trust that the consumers have on a certain brand. So that's with PR. When you move on to event management, which is my personal favorite, if you tell me to blindly choose between PR and event, I will opt for event. But I do both. So yeah, at event management, before I start off with the skills, what I want to tell you is all these skills I did not have everything, and it's not, some of them are not inbuilt. You really need to pick up on them. You need to learn. You need to practice on those, and they're all practical applications. You cannot theoretically tell yourself that you'll be punctual and you're a multitasking person. If you don't actually do it, you're not. So when you have the interest to take up this field, you learn, you practice, and then you apply, and that is it. And it comes with time. It took me 3-4 years to come up to it. So firstly, punctuality. Now, my father is a big time disciplinarian. He's not an army man, but he's almost like an army man without a gun. So he's extremely disciplined right from my childhood. That is some value that I'm thankful, very, very thankful for. Um, Me and my sister, extremely disciplined. If you tell us 10 o'clock, we'll be there at 9:55. So that is something that's very important as an event manager. If you are not on time, if you do not do your setup and production on time, um, your clients are going to be upset. Even if your audience is not there, you need to be ready. So if okay, the audience is half an hour late, so you take your time in doing setup and production, and suddenly your client says it's okay if the audience is not there. We are doing a live stream. You start the program, but you're not ready. So it's always on your shoulder. It will fall. The blame will be on you, not your clients. So punctuality is extremely important. Secondly, multitasking. You need to have understanding of various fields, be it things like first aid or technical understanding of speakers and LCDs that have been set up, and you need to be able to do all while checking, if your clients have done a tech check, mic checking before the program starts. You need to also make sure that the people backstage have gotten their makeup or costume and props, everything done. You need to be able to handle each and everything at the same time. um, Obviously there are technical things that help you, your walkie talkies will obviously help you, but it is up to you to be able to still handle it. Especially at a wedding, you have the entry exit, the groom and the bride will give you a hard time with other things. So it's up to you whether you can multitask or not. That's something you will slowly learn. I was very bad at it. I have gotten enough scoldings for it in front of the clients, in front of the bride and groom. I have been shouted at by my boss. For the next wedding, I had learned from that and I was much better. So it comes with time. Thirdly, organized. This is something, I'd say I'm a mild OCD, obsessive, compulsive person, because I love organizing, having a lot of sheets. Like having a lot of files, and it really excites me having a lot of Excel sheets and organizing data. So that was one thing that really helped me with event management. I liked having, when we were doing a wedding, we were having a celebrity wedding of Mr. Mayank Agarwal. He's a cricket player. He plays for Kings 11 Punjab. So when we were conducting his wedding, there were we were firstly handling only the groom side of things. About a week prior, the bride side came and said, "Listen, we are finding it very difficult to handle. We need you to handle our side as well." So arrival and departure of over 1,000 guests, over their arrival, departure, their food, their clothing, their makeup, their stay, everything we had to do. So that many sheets, that many vendors, letting the taxi drivers know, all of that was very difficult at one point of time. But slowly you get to know, and by the end of the wedding, at the back of your head, you've already by hearted all the guests' names. Fourth is patience. Um, Patience, and you have to be an extremely good listener when you're an event manager, because you miss out on one point and that will destroy your whole event. I remember we had a client, but that time I was not an active participant. I was only an observer. I used to take notes and do minutes of the meeting. Um, there was this client who said the roses have to be, the pink kind of roses. It should be in full bloom. There need to be 102 of them, and they need to be placed at this degree. And when the third or fourth second of the song plays is when it needs to drop from the top. If your client needs it that way, you have to do it that way. You don't have a choice. You can't tell your client, "I'm sorry, we can't do it that way." Of course, if there's an impossible obstacle that you have that you cannot avoid, obviously you have to tell your client. But you cannot completely say, no, we cannot do this for you. You have to do it. You don't have a choice. Um, Fifth is visualization. You need to have a creative sense. You need to have the ability to think from your client's point of view. You need to be able to anticipate what their requirements are, know what is in the best interest of the project, and then work accordingly. Um, you cannot just say or draw it down. Drawing is fine. Drawing and setup and production, obviously, all that is important. But you also need to be able to think in your head whether it's practical to do so. When you go on a recce is basically, you do a trial run at the venue. You go, you see what all is required, you see the technical requirements. You go around with the client, you physically stand at the location and say, okay, this comes here, this comes here. You do measurements and all of that. So that's a recce. So when you do that, tomorrow when you go back, your venue might not be accessible, especially if you're having a destination wedding, or when you do IFA awards and all. Your venue is Macau, but you're sitting in India. You cannot keep doing recce's. So tomorrow, though you may have pictures and measurements in hand, you need to also be able to visualize and creatively think about, okay, this will fit the venue, this will look good at the venue, this will not. So visualization again is very important. um, Sixth would be, you have to keep learning and adapt to the latest updates in the industry. Like for now, if you see in the last year in 2019, there was a whole trend among weddings where they loved the garden theme. It happened after the Virat and Anushka wedding, where everyone wanted a garden theme, peaches and roses and very light colors. Everyone wanted that. So Bollywood movies also influence weddings. Um, and there were venue decisions you make these days where corporate conferences are done at a resort. It's not like the venue is important, because even when a businessman goes or a businesswoman goes to a resort for the conference, they're not looking to only going for their conference and coming back. It's like a bleisure. It's called business plus leisure. It's called bleisure. It's that is the current trend now, where you go, you want to be attending the conference, but you also want to be at leisure enjoying the the resort and the views around. Seventh point would be attention to detail. Like I mentioned earlier about the roses being in full bloom, kept at this angle, you need to know each detail. When your client tells you that, you also need to be able to say, okay, the part you're requesting the flowers to fall from, there's an immense number of electrical wires that run by that area. So I'm sorry, ma'am, that will not be possible. But you need to also be able to pay attention to the detail and say where else that can be placed. So attention to detail is extremely important. Um, if you give more cars when guests are coming, you send in more cars, it's fine. But you send in less number of cars when 5 guests are coming, you send just less number of cars, it's a big problem. So visualizing and attention to detail extremely important. Eighth is learn to sell your ideas. When you sell your ideas, understand your client's needs and wants, because that is what is of utmost importance. You communicate their want. You don't just blindly sell your services because you need to make money, but you see what they need, see what the services you have, and give it to them as per their necessity. Obviously, your sales, your business is important, but your business runs on their needs and They come to you, so that is why you make money. So you need to learn to sell your ideas smartly. Don't let your clients or your vendors or anyone take you for a ride ever. That is something I was taken on a ride for, the first couple of months of my internship. Every vendor would tell me a different price and my boss a different price. So, and I would always land up paying 100, 200 extra because I didn't know the market value. So you need to, while selling your ideas, getting ideas from your vendor, you need to be able to know and understand. But that obviously comes with a lot of time. Um, Second last point would be presence of mind. Um, you need to maintain composure during stressful times. You need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to build a rapport, a good relation with the guests. You have to maintain a good relation. At this particular celebrity, like I said, Mayank Agarwal's wedding, um, there I remember we lost out on a couple of props that were supposed to come because the car that was on the way, it got stuck in traffic and we were running late. And we had to make do with things that were at the hotel. We took up things, we made it with our own hand, we kept it there. So just because you are of higher authority at that point of time, you can't say that, okay, I'm just going to ignore this. This is not important. Every single thing is important. Like I said, the seventh point, attention to detail, extremely important. And if you have that detailing in mind, you will also have the presence of mind to be able to um, adapt and give your client the services they want. The final one would be a solution centric approach. Again, it comes with presence of mind. You have to go with a problem solving attitude, not a fly attitude where you just run away when the problem comes, or you go to your colleague and you say, no, I don't know what to do, can you advise? Of course you can do that, but you also need to be having a solution centric approach. Even if you panic, don't let it affect you. um, I'll mention, we were doing a Bulgarian wedding. It was a Bulgarian bride and a Bangalorean boy. Um, the wedding was extremely difficult because it was completely Western culture. Table settings, everything was Western culture. They decide which guest sits where. In our Indian culture, we don't have a concept like that. Absolutely, we don't have a concept like that. So when we were doing that, I forgot the name tags of 3 or 4 guests that was printed the previous day. And this was my first wedding. So my boss had 10 minutes for setup. The printing shop was 5 minutes away. And while setting up, she told me, where are those 4 name tags? And I said, it's in my bag. I went and checked my bag and I immediately knew I had forgotten it at the printing shop. Um, I did not have the presence of mind. I did not have a solution centric approach at that point of time. And I just completely blanked out. She told me, you run, go to the printing shop, get it printed and come back. Of course, we cannot get it laminated. We didn't have the time. But get it printed and keep it in place at least. So my boss had presence of mind. My boss had the solution centric approach. I did. But the next wedding, when there was a problem, I was able to solve it by myself and then go back to my boss and say, you know what, I've sorted it, but I just thought I'll keep you updated. So you need to have that, but it comes with time. The first time a big stress hits you, you know you're not in college anymore. You cannot tell your professor to help you or be lenient with your marks. You don't have a choice but to solve the problem by yourself within a limited amount of time. So event management is like a roadie's show. It's tough, it's challenging, it's risky, it's scary, but if you really want to do it, you will do it at the end of it. So these are just a couple of events photos that I did. This was the Japanese aerospace, JAXA, and our ISRO's conference that we had in 2017. We had a large crowd, and it ran for about 3-4 days at Sheraton, Bangkok. This was the Bulgarian wedding, I said. As you notice, each guest has been told where to sit. Um, you cannot choose where you get to sit. You're told where to sit. There's a seating chart. You go see where you're supposed to sit and you sit there. That is the Western culture. So um, the lady on the left side, I had forgotten her name tag and she was extremely angry with me. But yeah, this was Mayank Agarwal's wedding. There was high security because the girl he was marrying was the police commissioner's daughter. So there was high amount of security, and that was another thing. This was the decor that we did, the mandap, and that's the bride. So yeah. Moving on to my post graduation life, after a year's break, I joined Christ University. I took a specialization in advertising and corporate communication. It was either journalism or advertising. So I obviously went for ad and copcom because that's where my interest lied. And we had events as a subject as well. So we barely had any time to breathe because that many assignments and projects and practical work we had. But whatever 2 3 events that came across in my department, I would grab the opportunity to be a part of it. So touch wood, and thanks to my professors being able to be a little lenient with me, I was a cultural head for dance and music. Sorry, for dance at Media Meet, the conference that we had. I'll show you pictures later. We had extremely hectic schedules. We would have 6 a.m. classes, sometimes 5:30 in the morning. We would have to go, and I would reach home only by like 9:30, 10 at night. And that's when I decided I cannot travel 15 kilometers in Bangalore. And then I shifted closer to college. So traveling to and fro was a big task. It was a whole new world of things. Going from Coimbatore to Bangalore, it was a big jump for me. I had absolutely no idea how to adapt to the whole broad-minded setting and very open living, very different culture it is over there. They expect a lot more from you. It's extremely competitive. So the first couple of months I was completely lost. I was thinking I would have to drop out because I can't keep up with the schedule. But eventually, with the kind of people that were around, with God's grace, I was lucky enough to have a bunch of good people in hand who helped me. Um, like I said, I grabbed every opportunity I had, and the internships had made me confident, and that confidence helped me upgrade it a little more with time. Things you're not necessarily comfortable with, you have to do it as part of. I was very bad at photography, um, but eventually I did get better at it slowly. I had basics at GRD. I had more complex learning in Christ. So yeah, so that was about Christ. We had a song production that we had to do. So this was during that. We had theater performances. So the one on the left was my production. I was a part of the team of Lost and Not Found. We had different dance performances as well. We would have big conferences. We had a Laura Mulvey conference as well, for which we had to put up performances. And this is my class with my professors and my juniors at Christ. This was our farewell. So yeah. The last topic, just before I finish up, we're on, I think, almost time. So, if you when you want to build a strong profile, there was not really anyone to tell me this except for my sister. My sister is also into events, so she was a big guiding force for me. Um, LinkedIn is the one of the best platforms in today's world to get noticed. Just send a link of your LinkedIn profile while applying for a job or an internship. It's extremely important. You get to connect with a lot more people. You On LinkedIn, it's you not only build connections, you can follow relevant pages like you do on any other social media platform, but it's more formal and more job oriented, more career oriented. You can get people to, or your mentors, to write recommendations about you on your profile, and that really helps tomorrow. Um, Also, do as many courses as you can. That's moving on to internshala. For me, I did one or two courses, that you can do at the comfort of your house. You do 1 hour today, 2 hours tomorrow, and you can finish the course. Business communication, creative writing, content writing, graphic designing. Those who are, interested in more complex stuff, you can do that. So do courses, because this really builds your resume. When they see that you have a certificate in content writing, they have a lot more confidence in hiring you, because especially if it's from something reputed company like Internshala. So the more courses you do, the more opportunities you grab, the more stronger your profile is. The more stronger your profile is, the more confidence your employer has in you. So, yeah. The third one is money is not everything. This is not something I understood initially, because when I joined Publicis, my stipend, they said, would be 10, but what came in hand would be 6 or 7,000. Because, tax and the mistakes I would make, they would cut for that. So initially, I was like, what is this? But when I compared it to other places, many internships were unpaid. Um, for 6 months together, I got 10,000 rupees from another company. Uh, so it depends. Sometimes the internship and the stipend doesn't really count. Of course, it does in certain ways, but more than the stipend, please give more importance to the experience you get from there. Take it from me, because um, I gave importance to the stipend at first, but when I got into the company and when I started learning a lot more, I realized that even if I don't get the money, this experience holds a lot of value for me, and it's adding on to my resume as an experience of a lifetime. So I, even if you don't give me the money, I'm okay with it. Fourth, have a resume, whether you're a first year undergrad or you're a final year, or you're just passed out, whatever it is, always have a resume. Your school, your college, the courses that you do, social work, volunteering services that you do, you can include everything, because every small skill, as much as helping a person or conducting an animal rescue or volunteering for a flea market for 3 days, every skill matters. So grab every opportunity that you can and add it onto your resume. Keep updating it as and when you achieve anything, as and when you complete something. Keep updating your resume. Do not wait 3, 4 months after you complete your course to then update your resume, because by then you would have forgotten the skills you've achieved, you have forgotten what you have learned sometimes. So you will not be able to do justice to updating your resume. The fifth point would be grab opportunities. I've said this enough and more times. Um, when I was in Coimbatore, there were one or two clubs for college students that were there outside of college. Um, Initially, I joined it because my friend was a part of it, but when my friend left, I continued to be a part of it, because they would meet only once a month at race course and discuss about what needs to be done, clean up drives and all of that. Be a part of these small things, because it not only expands your network, you meet new people from different opportunities. You don't know, maybe the 10 people you meet in that meeting, one of them might be able to offer you an internship. I'm not saying be selfish and therefore go for social work. I'm just saying go for it, because it expands your network as well as adds to your resume and your experience. Sixth, never hesitate to ask for help, be it your friends, your colleagues, your mentors, your professors. Trust me when I say this, I used to be a very reserved person and I used to not approach. But um, thanks to the, you know, approaching behavior of my professors, I was able to open up to them and tell them, okay, I'm uncomfortable with this. Could you guide me? And they were forever giving. They were always there to help, and thanks to them I am what I am now. um, Seventh, do not be stubborn. Right now I finished my postgrad at a time of COVID. My final exams were online. My Christ's convocation is cancelled. I don't have a convocation ceremony. I didn't get to say goodbye to my friends. I'm in Kerala. I left Bangalore. I left in a time like this, and I have the events market is down completely, and so is corporate communication. For internships, it's completely down. So when I'm searching for internships and jobs, I'm not getting it in the field, exact field that I want. So do not be stubborn and say only if I get an events internship or job will I go. Apply for related fields as well, recruitments, HR, um, sometimes maybe even teaching, digital marketing, customer care executions. Do that. I'm not saying go for something completely different. I'm saying go to related fields and don't be stubborn and stick to one field only. Because maybe if you intern in this digital marketing or advertising field for 2, 3 months, at the end of it, you will get an opportunity, better opportunity. Other opportunities keep opening up. One big place to actually search for good internships would be Internshala. There is a whole tab of work from home internships that you can do just at the comfort of your house. So go through that. Even if you have college going on, you can build your resume also. You'll gain some experience, a certificate, maybe even a stipend if you're lucky. Last but not the least, stay updated. Know what is going around you. I'm not saying know only about Bollywood and all the movies or the gossips that are going around. No, I'm saying keep in tandem with uh, what the government is doing, what the whole health scene is like. Know everything around you. You are in the events field doesn't mean you only need to know about what your event is going to be or what your company entails, but you also need to know what is going around you. Because, for example, did you know that when you are holding a large scale Sangeet party for the previous day of your wedding, if you're doing a certain, for a certain number of people, if you have and you're getting a DJ, there are certain licenses and NOCs that you need to obtain from T Series and from Z Music and all of that. These policies and everything keep updating with time. So this is something you need to keep in tandem with. So something, it's not just about your events. You need to know what is going on around you as well. So stay updated. um so yeah, ending this up, I'd like to say contact me for anything, even if it's just to crib and cry about not having an internship or having a hectic schedule and not being able to manage, or for any guidance or any way that I can help you. I'm all yours. You can note down my email ID and my WhatsApp or call number, and feel free to approach me at any time of the day. Just drop me a message or give me a call, and I'll definitely get back to you. If I can help, I will definitely help, else, I will just give you my opinion. But I'm all ears. So I know what it feels like sometimes not to be heard or not to have someone to talk to. So please feel free to approach me at any point of time. So yeah, shoot your questions, and I swear I'll answer to the best of my ability. So that's about it to wrap up my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful session. You've given us a great insight into the industry. We learned a lot about the importance of internships, details, and hard work in this industry that we are forever thankful to you for. I now request Ajay Karthik and Ashwin Surya to take over the question answer session. If anyone has any doubts or queries related to this field that you can ask the guest, you can type them in the chat box now to be answered. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi, good morning.
Uh, Chintana had asked you a question when the session was going on. Does
Okay.
PR just help us to get into the corporate world?
Okay. See, PR need not necessarily take you into a complete jump into the corporate world. It is a very slow process. You might have to start doing PR for, with no payment as an internship for a startup company. But eventually, when you build your skills and sometimes luck just plays a role, you might get a chance to work with a startup company. get my first PR internship in a big company. But when I was in GRD, I didn't have a choice. I just did PR in my uncle's company. So that was not necessarily a big, corporate, corporate giant or anything. But Publicis Group, which was the company I got right after GRD, was a big time public giant. They handle such big clients that I have only read in papers and I never knew about. So it's a slow process, but definitely with the skills, with your experience, and with passion, you will definitely get there. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone have any other questions left? You can post it on the chat box. Okay, Aryan has asked a question, ma'am. Can you
Okay.
please explain more on the external side of the relationship between the clients and company?
Okay. External side of the relationship. Um, I'll tell you what I did. Um, I mean, I'm also not a pro. I'm not a complete PR professional. I'll tell you what I did with an example. So I was working for Publicis Group, like I said. They are a PR company. Publicis and MSL, they are like sister companies. They work together. And they have a lot of clients, like I said, Ola and Netflix and all of that. So what we would do would, my day would start with news tracking. News tracking is basically all the newspapers that you have in India. I mean, in Bangalore, we would have all those newspapers laid out. We would have half an hour and we would split these newspapers among 10 of us, maybe. And you have to, all our clients like Netflix, Ola, Harman, all of these 150 clients that we have to see how many times their names have been mentioned in the paper. It might be good, it might be bad. So you have to note that. That's how our day would start. Then you have to notify at the end of the week, you have to notify your client how many times their name was mentioned, whether it was positive or negative news. So this is something that you convey to your client. This is your work to inform your client. Suppose I'm informing Netflix. Now Netflix will say, okay, we've got this offer deal for 5 people who can take a subscription together. We need you to notify other people. So we need you to notify our consumers. We need you to notify probable consumers. So we reach out to our journalists who we work with, like in the Hindu or the Times of India. We call them. We say, listen, is there a space to run this pitch that Netflix is talking about? Then you keep following up, and finally, probably within that week, you reach your target. Netflix, that information comes in the paper. Then you have to follow up on the article that has been published. You have to see how many impressions it's got on social media. You have to see whether it's reached people. Is it improving the sales of Netflix? So this is your job. You are like a mediator between Netflix and the uh, public. So this is the kind of work that I did. This is the external side of what I did. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
I guess this answer also answers the next question, ma'am. What is the
What
role
is the
of
role of
PR in
PR?
online streaming platforms?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, the next question is, how is PR different from advertising? It's a simple one.
Okay. uh, okay. See, PR. Okay, this is kind of tough to crack when I'm as an intern side. See, when you're doing PR, um, sometimes it's just conveyance of information. Okay, you're just saying, okay, so we have reached 100 million subscribers. Thank you for the support, and you're just letting people know. But indirectly, it's also saying, see, 100 million people support me. So why don't you do too? So it depends on the way you put out your message, whether it's PR or advertising. So it's a tough thing to say how to, yeah, it goes hand in hand really. Because when I was doing PR, we were also doing advertising for Ola. And at that time, there was a whole case against Ola as well, where this whole harassment case happened in Delhi or Bombay. And there was a whole hashtag against Ola that was coming in. and where we would have 100 positive things mentioned in the paper, there were almost 200 negative things mentioned about Ola. And that week was horrible for us. And Ola would keep blasting us. The journalists would keep asking for more negative information about Ola. So, it's a very complicated thing. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Chintana has another question.
Okay.
Is a corporate job the only opportunity that we get if we learn PR, or what are the job opportunities we have in PR?
Is it a corporate job the only opportunity? Uh, no, not just the corporate job. Say tomorrow you're starting off your own business. You can't start your, I mean, if you have that big an investment, okay. But if I were to start a business, I would start off maybe just with one or two people. So PR, advertising, accounts, client servicing, customer care, everything I only have to do. So I wouldn't call that a corporate job. I'm just a startup. So PR necessarily doesn't have to be connected to the corporate world. Uh, Definitely, it plays an important part in the corporate world. Every PR, every company giant, be it a medical company or be it just an online service, anything at all has a PR department. They might not necessarily have a PR department that says this is our PRO, but they'll have someone definitely, doing customer service and public relations and HR for them. So it's not only a corporate job. Do not go with that mindset that PR pays big and all of that. Definitely it pays big out there in the big giants, but you have to start from an entry level. So you can't start off with a corporate level job. You start slowly and then you end up there. So if not, then what are other job opportunities you have if you learn PR? Um, what are other job opportunities? PR literally branches out. For me, I've applied in HR as well. Human resources. We've done event sales. We've done little digital marketing. These are all branches that come along with PR. So definitely they have a separate set of skills, which again you learn as time goes and with time. But yeah, so if you don't jump directly into PR, you definitely can branch out into digital marketing. There's advertising, there's HR, there's customer care. So yeah, depends on where your aptitude lies, where your interest lies, and your skill lies.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question by Aravind is, what do you see as your most advanced skill, and how does it relate to your job as a PR?
Okay. Okay. So I would say my most advanced skill would be rapport building. That was the skill I never possessed at the beginning of my, jump into the industry. When I went out there, I remember there's a place called Chickpet in Bangalore, and it's a wholesale market. I was sent out there alone for a whole day to get almost 20-25 items for a wedding. So when I went there, I did not had no head or tail. The vendor took me for a ride. They overpriced everything and they really took me for a ride. But and after a month when I went there, he remembered me as the person that he took a ride for, and he tried to overprice the products again, but he couldn't that time. Because by that 1 month, I had been given enough shoutings by my boss for the fact that I had spent a lot more money than the budget was. So I think that one skill that I didn't have, I have now. Rapport building and bargaining. Bargaining is very important when you're a wedding planner, especially with the vendors. So yeah, I think that would be one skill that I'd say I have now.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is by Sheetal. Good morning, ma'am. My question is, do you also work in increasing the brand knowledge of a particular content?
Um, Currently, I don't have a job, Sheetal, but when I was in Publicis, we were increasing the brand knowledge of a particular client. Um, like I said, Harman, we were talking about their different promotions at that period of time. For Ola, we were talking about crisis management at that period of time. So we were increasing a certain brand knowledge about a certain client. So yeah.
Okay, ma'am. What are some of the growing trends in the public relation industry? This question is by Samiksha.
Okay. What are some of the growing trends? Uh, I think PR has become a lot more digital right now. Initially, we used to reach out to a lot of our local newspapers. Bangalore Times. When we were there, Bangalore Mirror was one of the papers we used to try and highlight, because the current generation, or the 20 to 30, or 18 to 25, 30-year-olds used to read Bangalore Mirror because they don't want to read mainstream newspapers, so they would read Bangalore Mirror. So we would put in our main, that kind of news where we want to, about Netflix or something, we would put it in Bangalore Mirror so that they read it. So we would reach out to them. But right now, especially with the whole COVID crisis, a lot of people have given up buying newspapers and stuff. And even just before COVID hit, an immense number of people started doing online. If you see, there's a page called Mad Over Marketing. I'd actually advise you all to go out and read the stuff. A lot of latest problems, be it COVID or anything at all, they promote it in a very creative way. So creativity, um, sarcasm. I would say sarcasm is also a current trend. They don't tell you the message directly, but they indirectly tell you the message, and you get it, and that stays in your head for a very long period of time. So you remember the brand. Oh, this brand did it this way. So that sarcasm stays in your head. So I think sarcasm and online PR would be the current trend.
Thank you, ma'am. When it comes to building a market strategy for a particular brand or a public figure, what are all the things which one should keep in their mind as a PR?
While building a market strategy for a
A particular
particular
brand.
brand. Okay. You need to first know what that brand needs. What do they need to convey? Do they need to convey a promotion? Do they need to convey a deal? Are they trying to make up for for some issue that they faced? Um, is that why their prices are going down? Is it a crisis management? So you need to know what they want and accordingly make a strategy. So you need to know the needs, you need to know their wants, you need to know their goals and targets. And accordingly, you derive a strategy. Once you take a strategy, you also need to know whether it's feasible. Is it in budget? Is it is it achievable, or are you overly, overshooting a target? So once you have all these factors in mind, you can derive a certain strategy as a PR professional.
Okay, ma'am. Sabari Rajan has asked, is there any diploma or PG course particularly for PR?
Um, I doubt it is there for purely. I'm sure there will be diploma courses and crash courses for public relation for sure. There will be, but a whole postgraduate degree for PR alone, I doubt it. You can probably do like, for example, I'm telling you, when I did it in Christ, we had you can choose between corporate communication, PR, and advertising, or you can do journalism in the second year. So second year, my whole focus was purely corporate communication related subjects. So we had crisis management, we had organizational behavior, we had HR. So your second year is complete specialization, and your first year really brushes you upon what you did in your undergrad, and it also gives you a foundation to what you're going to learn next year. So yeah, diploma courses, I'll have to check and get back to you. You can just drop me a message on my number I mentioned earlier, and I'll check and get back to you. But PG degree courses alone, I doubt there is.
Aravind, that question was asked in the starting itself. So
Yeah.
Swatika has a question, ma'am. Is it okay for us to do internships than doing PG? Should we do a postgraduate, or we can go directly for internships, which is having more value?
A degree has its, see, you cannot say one is more important than the other. Like, then rather I, do only internships. I wouldn't have done my undergrad. Like, I wouldn't want to sit 3 years in a class and study. I'd rather go on field and do event management. But degree has its own importance, and internship has its own importance. Degree is more of giving you a foundation in theory. It's connecting your theory and practical knowledge, whereas your internships and job experiences give you a practical on hand. Get your hands messy, be part of the job, and do it. So each has its own importance. So that's why I wanted to see, I didn't want to just do a PG for the sake of it. I wanted to know what I want to do my PG in. That's why I took a year's break. So I took a year's break. I knew I wanted to do something related to events and PR. So I did PR. Then I realized it's not completely a desk job I want to do. So I did events. And that's how I realized, okay, I want to do media and communication only, and I want to specialize in CopCom and events. That's how I did my PG in Christ, because they had that specialization in the second year. So that's how I decided to do my degree there.
Samiksha has asked, ma'am, what are the qualities expected in a PR person? You can answer that in
Samantha,
short, I guess.
I said this in the presentation. You were not paying attention. Uh, I will send you my presentation again. And if you have doubts, just drop me a message.
Yeah, it was there in the presentation. So does anyone else have any questions? Okay, I guess the question and answer session is over. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for answering all the questions so patiently.
Thank you so much.
Now I call Mukund. Akshayka?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This wonderful session has now come to its end. I now request Mukund of third year to present the vote of thanks.
Good morning, one and all present here. I, Mukund Madhav, on behalf of School of Communication, Dr. GRD College of Science, first of all, extend my sincere thanks to Almighty God for making today's event a resounding success. I immensely thankful our chief guest, Shreya Mohan Nayar, and Dr. D. Padmanabhan, correspondent and the managing trustee. I wish I wish to place on record my sincere gratitude to Ms. Geeta Padmanabhan for being supportive in all our activities. I also extend thanks to our principal, Dr. T. Shanta, for always encouraging us. I also wish to thank staff members for their cooperation in organizing this event. The NEP promises a new era of transformation in education and is perfectly launchpad for the students to transit to an exciting stage of life. As our nation shifts its focus towards multidisciplinary studies, it is important to understand the significance of extracurricular activities, methodical training, internships, and vocational education. With technology being a precursor to all professional and personal engagements, making oneself digitally aware is critical to national economic growth. Each one of us must make contribution to the society and take responsibility for our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to state that we are all most grateful to our alumni, Shreya, for sharing her experience. We thank you for being with us. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful session. I think all the questions that they had about PR and event management, I think you very precisely, you did that. They were able to, understand much, much better with lots of examples and insights and all that. Thank you, Shreya.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this opportunity again. It really feels good to come back to GRD, not physically there, at least virtually. So thank you to all my teachers and professors. I am what I am because of you all.
Shreya, that was awesome. That was a nice presentation, and to see you grown up, very matured in the way you have kind of grown. right in front of us. So it's really, really nice. And I think Sashikala and me will take great pride to say that, we also were teachers for your sister. So we're very
Yeah.
proud to see both of you doing very, very well today. Good going, great job. Keep going up in the ladder, and we will call you back again.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.